Alright, this is my Caddy 05 STS used car guy. This is the one I put the engine in, and the battery's been dead many times, and he put a new battery in it because I had to jump it every time, but it's in. It actually ran good, and you know, I shipped it. He switched me with another one, and about a couple days later, after he got the new battery in, when he didn't have to jump it every morning, he's like, hey, I got a check engine light on, and he gave me the codes, and I want to find it because so he has the P0014, the P0011, and the P0420. So after the, you know, this is all bank 1 VVT, so the converter one, we'll have to see if there's an issue. I mean, there could be because of what happened. This is the side that swallowed the valve and was burning who knows what on the passenger side. So, you know, it could need a converter, but for now I'm going to ignore that one because we want to make sure the variable valve timing works and this thing actually runs efficiently before we deal with it. So anyway, I already know what's happening here. Going to give you a quick story because I honestly didn't want to do this job after, well, there's a whole bunch of reasons, but one is just, you know, tying this place up, you know what I mean? I got a little bit of room in here now, but whenever I take something like this apart, 21 hours messing around in the evenings, I can't, it's just hard to tie the shop up, and I gotta pick the right time to do it. So anyway, he had it towed here from a junk, you know, like the junk section of an auction. This is my used car guy, and he said, you know, see what you can do. So someone had it apart, you know, I started messing with it and I realized where they were at, and I saw the rocker off and the spring missing, and I knew what was up, you know, to do a cylinder head on one of the, I don't know, I wouldn't even be interested in that. So I said, if you give me a used engine, I guess I'll do it. So they shipped me a used engine, and when it came in, the throttle body was bent, and then this valve cover was actually cracked. I just mixed up some epoxy. I don't know what else I could do. So far it seems like it's not leaking, it's been running for a while. The intake was missing. There was some plastic pieces, like it was dropped, and the oil filter housing was off of it. And when I looked down in the engine, I saw kind of like just real slight, but rust in the valves, you know, and I'm like, man, where did you order? You got it from eBay or some kind of something, and it shipped, and it was loose on 2 pallets, bungee corded together, and who knows where the damage happened. But by the time I got started on it, you know, he had no recourse to return it. It would have cost too much, so I just took the gamble and put it in. So anyway, it ran, I was happy. That's my sob story. But now I have this problem. Now I don't know, honestly, because this thing, you know, I mean, nothing was cracked up here in the timing cover. It looked like, you know, right at the edge here, and the fan is driven off the crank pulley. I don't know if you can see down in there, but there's a weird bracket, a tripod bracket that bolts around the crank pulley, and there's a couple rubber isolators and some studs that drive the fan instead of being like on a water pump or an accessory. It's right off the crankshaft. So someone might have put a hook around, because this was broken also on the old engine. Like someone might have decided to lift it from that, and then it snapped and it might have fell over at that point, but they pressure washed it and they like hid everything. So anyway, I'm glad it runs, but now I have this VVT, and I honestly don't know if just the shock of dropping it or if this is a common problem. If anyone's ever seen this, let me know. But I already fixed the exhaust one because I just wasn't sure what was going on, and now that I see it, I'm just gonna make a video and show a couple tests and some waveforms, and then I'll, you know, pull the intake apart, and we'll show that too, and then we'll show the hopefully confirmed repair. And I'm just wondering if, you know, if it's a common problem, like I said, where these snap, or maybe the shock of whatever, you know, hit right here, if it jolted this cover, because I have the old cover from the other engine, and I was trying to energize these things as well, and then I realized that the, you know, that the part, actually, here's the camshaft I stole the part out of, but the part that broke was inside the cam sprocket hub, but the part that goes onto the engine, that the valve cover goes on, here's the orientation of it, and the two magnetic coils. But, you know, when they drop the engine or something, did this thing shift? I mean, there's dowel pins holding that in there, and, you know, I don't see any evidence of any damage. Could a shock on here do that? When I put the other one back together, I actually had to leave the bolts loose and then move this around a little bit in, you know, in the bolt, you know, with the bolts in, I could move it just a little bit, and then I energized it and made sure that it clicked, because if I held it down, it was sticking there, and if I pulled it up, then it would work. So maybe, you know, a couple thousandths inch clearance might be all it takes. Either way, I just want this car out of here. So if I can make it work with all the used parts and get it out of here, because I know he's not going to want to pay me to keep going. Well, you know, either blow it out at the auction with a running, at least a running Cadillac now, but that's not what he wants. He wants to be able to sell it. So see what I can do. Alright, so I have both intakes graphed. So my suspect bad one I have graphed, and then the one that actually was working behind the power steering reservoir. So this is both intakes, because like I said, the computer actually graphs or controls both of them for my test. So I don't know if I really need to get all of this in here, but so we're going to go to the intake control, and it's going to do its thing here and collect data. And here the RPM goes up. Okay, so it's already, even without me asking for anything, it's constantly sending a small duty cycle. It probably doesn't even move the cam hub, but if I go to test and we go, so you can see, like I said, only the bank 2 intake is working. But if you look at the waveform here, I'm gonna back out of this real quick because it times me out. But if I go to, let's say, go to maybe a 50 millisecond, so you can actually see what's going on here, and then I'll pause it. And this confused me at first, and I was gonna, you know, look into maybe the computer, you know, sending the wrong signal or something, because I was looking at my old Vantage, but I wanted to get it cleaner. So we'll go, now if you go, now I'm gonna pause this so we can look at it. Okay, it timed me out now, so it's not even trying. So I gotta cycle the key. Let me turn that off. It doesn't give you can't do this for too long of a period of time. I'm assuming you can cause some issues, but if I play this back and go back a little bit while it was actually doing something, if I can get there, go a little bit faster here. You can see how it's sending like a rhythmic pulse through there, and the one that's actually working The yellow is my bank 1. It's doing kind of the same thing, but it's nowhere near as long. So when I saw that, I'm like, you know, I'm assuming the computer's pulsing it fast to try to get it to move, and then maybe it can hold it with a wider pulse width in this initial rushes to get it to open. I'm not sure if anyone's ever seen this before. Any input is always appreciated. But when I first saw that on I was just using my old Vantage just because it's easy to check a quick signal. I saw that and I'm like, man, I wonder if something's wrong with the computer. And then I saw the other one was doing the same thing, just not as much. So anyway, that's left and right. This is my bad one, this is my good one. So we'll look at the signal whenever I'm done and do that. But I'll show you the next step I did, just because I saw this and I'm like, is it a computer control? So the next thing I did is I just wanted to check for, I'll show you the circuit here. So here's the wiring diagram, and I actually did this, doing this kind of backwards as far as the flow that I actually did it, because the first thing I did was just get a test light and check. If you see the camshaft actuators, I don't know how close I can get here, I got it wrinkled already, but you have all 4 of them right there. You know, you have one intake and one exhaust on each side, and you can see they all share a ground. And I'm thinking, get that wrinkled a little bit, you know, I'm thinking I just put this engine in, you know, did I swap the two? You know, is it possible to swap the two? They all have the same plug. The cam sensors have the, you know, just the position sensors have the same plug. These actuators have the same plug as the other 4, and I'm thinking, could I have crossed them? So I had to peel back the wiring harness, because you just can't see what color the wires are. It's just so cruddy. So the first thing I did, because it was just a quick test, is did I switch them? And I didn't. I'm not going to bore you with that. I checked everything and peeled the harness back and found the right colors and made sure they are hooked up, and it kind of fell into place anyway, but you always hope for that. So the next one is, do I have a bad ground? They share a ground. Could there be something broken? Because those wires run underneath the intake manifold. And so I just got a test light, which I don't have over here. But all I did was get a test light, and I checked. I was more concentrated on the 2 that didn't work. So you can see I'm on the power side. You can't see, I'm not in there right. So where I'm not now is the intake positively controlled solenoid, and this side here is the ground. So I actually just put a test light in line, and it didn't, or it actually lit up, the light lit up on all of them. So I'll just do it real quick. So I grabbed an even older, crappier test light. That's the first one I found. An old snap-on. And all I did was back probe. Just push down in there. See, I had a ground. And I checked the other side. I had a ground. Went over here. Check this one. Ground. Check the other side of it. I can get in there. Ground. So that, in theory, tells me even the circuitry through the actuator is good, as long as I'm not seeing a computer ground. So if I check the black one, you can't really tell the colors, like I said, but this black one here, and I went behind it, which is hard to do. I'll flip it around. You can see I have a nice ground there, and if I go to the computer side, you can see when it's hard to tell, but it's real dim whenever I hit just the computer side. So I'm actually seeing a little bit of a ground through the PCM, but the fact that I see the full ground on, with it plugged in, the circuitry was good inside the unit. Now if you use this test light, which was my computer safe one, it actually shows the same thing. It shows a solid ground on both. I don't know if I hook it up. Now I'm hooked up to battery positive, but you can see I'm showing a solid ground on both like I did on the other one. But when I unplug it and check the ground one, which is that one, it shows off ground, and I show the other side, it actually still shows off ground. It doesn't differentiate between the two, so I don't know, but it beeps on that one, not on that one. Either way, you know, if you want to be sure, I did check the resistance, and it was a little bit higher than I wanted it to be. If I hook, say, my black lead here up to the ground, and then I go to the skin or the lab scope here, and I get out of where I'm at and I go to, I'm in the lab scope there, I don't need that, I just need a graphing meter, go to ohms. I'm going to use my well, I'll just calibrate it real quick. Put my two leads together, hit the calibration just in case I have high resistance, and then I put this back on the engine, and then I touched my black wire wherever that one's at, right here, and touch it. I have, well, I'm on a high scale here, go down to a 40 ohm scale, and you can see I have like 20 ohms. It's a little bit higher than I would like, but the system works with that. So my next step was to, because it's just a electric solenoid, is to just energize it with a jumper wire. So I'll go to one that works here. So I'm hooked up to the positive of my bank 2 intake, the one that worked whenever I energized it. Just have my made up jumper leads. And if I go over, I don't know if you can see where I'm touching here, but in this box here, there's a battery leg feeding this box. So you can hear, actually you can even see it, whatever, it doesn't matter, I have it graphed still for some reason. But whenever I hit that, it works. And then whenever I go to the bank 1 on the passenger side, I'm instrumented, I'm on the, make sure I'm still on the colored wire here, which I'm not, I'm on the ground. So I go to the computer control side here and touch it, nothing's happening. Now there's spark on my terminal, don't know if that'll show up, but that was showing me that my circuit is actually complete. There's something trying to work. That's the wrong one, I need my black one. I almost said, hey, it's fixed and I didn't do anything. So if I use my black one here, you can see it's trying. And then I even went as far as to take another lead and go to the ground side and get rid of that 20 ohms. It didn't matter. I'm not gonna bother doing that, but I did do that as well. So that's the point where I decided to take these covers off and see what was under there and see if it's something I could do, see if this part was bad, if the winding was bad, but we know, you know, electrically the circuit is there and it's drawing a current, it's just not doing anything. And I started pulling these apart. Alright, speaking of test leads, I've had a couple people asked me if I make my own, so yeah, I make my own. So what I do is I have one bullet connector, just strip the wire back, and these little bullet connectors actually fit into Harbor Freight alligator clips perfectly. Actually, I found out by accident, but I just got a box of these things at Harbor Freight, and they just have a round hole in there, and these things fit in perfect. So you have the clip on the one end, then on the other end, usually I'm not using the heat shrinky style, I'm just using the regular crimp connectors, but when you use them for a while, I'll show you the T-pin I'm using gets a little bit loose. So same thing on this side. And then my wife owns a salon. I think you can get these at any Sally Beauty Supply. It's just a wig T-pin, so they work good just to jam in back probe in connectors, and use your regular multimeter leads as well. But all I do, the first one I did, I tried soldering it and all that stuff, and it worked for a while, but it was just easier to, you know, quick and dirty make one. So just cut the T end of it off and stick it in the connector. And I'm gonna try to see how long this heat shrink one works. I'll heat it up and see, but because this thing isn't braided, of course, so it doesn't compress. So through a period of time, it does actually loosen up in there, and I've pulled on this and had the pin stay in the connector. So there you go. What?
Brand new rose and you're cutting them.
I don't know if this end's really gonna keep that snug in there or not, but guys, pay attention to see how long I'm using my white made up jumper lead. I pulled the one phaser off. Actually, this is just the magnet. It's a permanent magnet, or I mean an electromagnet that bolts right down here. They're all the same. And when I pulled it out, this part came out, but the rest of it was stuck inside the hub. Red thing shows up. All right. So these, I have 4 of these from the old engine that I tore apart. I was getting ready to scrap it. And this is the part that's supposed to move inside of the phaser itself, which is part of the gear. And I honestly don't know if you can change anything. I might tear it apart if you can get the front part off without doing a timing chain job. But if you look, can you see that snap ring in that window? This might be hard to, but there's a little snap ring under here at about 6 o'clock. So I don't know, I'll rotate it a little bit. I can see daylight. I was able to get a snap ring pliers in there and pull the one out of the old engine, and it's not broken. And the little springs there, my snap ring is still on there, right there. And here's what came out of the camshaft hub of the engine. So I have both of them to do. Luckily this side works. Shine over there. Luckily this side works because the power steering is in the way and all that other stuff. So I'm working on the right bank, and these cam hubs are also marked left intake, left exhaust, right intake, right exhaust. And I pulled the right exhaust one out. That's what came out. So I'm gonna try to put this back in a little bit cleaner than it looks now. And then you can see when I was practicing on the old engine, I tried to pull it out of the head and I pulled the rivets out and pulled this thing apart. On the one that was part of the car, since I had one to screw up, I did this one and I was able to get a screwdriver in here. But if you look, I have a gouge that shouldn't hurt anything. I'm just gonna mix some RTV up and put it back together. That's the only choice I have. But I did make a gouge trying to break this seal. So anyway, I'm gonna try to put this piece back in here and try to get the snap ring to stay in there, so this thing will actually do what this one does. Whenever you energize the coil, it pulls and you let off and you hear it snap. And when I energized that one, as you heard when I did it, which I didn't do yet, Nick, you hear it doing that. And this bank, you did not hear it doing that. And this makes sense why it didn't work. It was good electrically. The computer signal, you know, it was trying to control it. It looked a little bit funny, but I think it knew it wasn't working, so it started altering the signal. So we'll look at a new signal when it is working. But there you go. I can't believe it. One down. I got it in there. Shine your, you probably can't see, it's too sunny out here. Give me some shade.
You have it.
Oh, I do. Shine the light like right there. Can you hold that right there? I actually was able to fight this thing in here, and Nick couldn't believe it. But I was actually able to fight those in with a pocket screwdriver and get that snap ring back in there without pulling the cover off. So that's actually in there. So this thing's either gonna blow up, right, Nick? Again. Or it's gonna work. We'll see. One more. All right, so we're gonna go to the exhaust one I just fixed. Try the exhaust first. Gotta put it in park, sorry. I'll test it. Go up 5. And you can see now they both work. So I didn't show the exhaust one not working, but it was the same as the intake. So now we'll go over to the intake one and we'll make sure that one works. Try a little bit more time, go up to 25. It's going where it wants to go. I can feel it starting to misfire a little bit. Go all the way back to 0. So I can't believe it, but it works. Alright, so this video is going to be a little bit out of order because I've been filming bits and pieces. I'll try to edit it and make it nice. But so I already did the exhaust one, and I had to get a screwdriver in here to break the seal. It's RTV'd in there or something. And when I pulled it out, that's the same thing that I found on the other one. So this is part of that valve. It's broken in there. I don't know if it's replaceable or not. I never looked to see. But you can see that, I don't know if you can see it with my screwdriver here, but I can pull on the valve so it's not broken. I'm almost wondering, I mean, there is enough of a gap in here, you know, for some offset, you know what I mean? But when this thing, like I said, I don't know if it's a common problem or not. So when I tighten the other one back in, I actually had to hold it, you know, move it around while I was energizing it with my jumper lead to make sure that it moved in there. Because when I first bolted it up, it didn't work on the exhaust side. I loosened it and I pulled it up just a hair, as high as I could actually, but it only went up a hair and everything started working. So, you know, I don't know, is the front case distorted or is this a common problem? But getting the old one out is not hard. Just need a pair of snap ring pliers because it's broken. You know, if it's, while it's in there, I'm gonna put a magnet here because I don't want this dropping down in the engine. So I pulled the snap ring out. There's the snap ring, small little bugger. And then this one here, there's a spring and a washer back here, so I kind of want to do the same thing. Get the washer to come out. Now this is all sealed. You gonna help me put this in, Nick?
I don't want to say it on camera.
What? Oh, you're going gay, weren't you?
Yeah. You started it. So that one was broke too.
Yep. It's just curious how it's the one that's side that had the cracked valve cover, even though it didn't look like it did anything. Why can't I get that out? Just don't want it to fall in the engine. Take. Same thing. I mean, maybe just the shock of it too, you know what I mean?
Not a whole lot of room for air there then.
There's not. You know, so was it intact till I turned the engine over?
So you broke it.
I did, yeah, I did. Alright, so there's the washer that's showing up in there.
Sorry.
Huh?
Pose for the
There?
camera.
Yep. And then there's a spring. And this is all part of the valve spring. And then it must be aluminum because it don't stick. And then here is the rest of that valve. You see that? So there it is, broken stuff. And I still have the old engine with all the old parts, so take another one out, put it in, and hopefully we can confirm that it works. I know I probably should do a good cam crank relationship waveform, but I have this engine tore apart, separated into cast aluminum. I left the block alone, but there is the crank sensor, which is under the intake manifold, and the starter goes here. And I don't know if there's another plug in the back or if I'd have to go all the way to the computer, but since I was able to just actuate it with a scan tool and know that it wasn't happy, I just decided not to go that route. Probably would have made a better video. But anyway, I came out here to find all the valves are probably the same, but this one is the left exhaust and this one is the right intake. So that's the one I'm working on now, so I'm gonna take this and try to get that stupid snap ring. I don't know if you can see it in there. It's stupid, yes. But get that snap ring out, and then getting it back in is the fun part. Who knows? Alright, so this is what we had to do last time. Luckily I have Nick here to help me. This was the right exhaust one, so be careful to really crunch that cam lobe since I don't care, and find out where the snap ring is, orient that the way it needs to go. What was I using? The angled one.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pretty tight fit. So you had what? You had the needle nose jammed in there, prying up to keep that against the spring pressure. And then I put the snap ring pliers. Go ahead. Did it move? I think it moved.
Oh, you gotta go further than that.
Oh, there it is. So that part really wasn't too bad. Here's the way it should look all together with that little washer and the spring and the snap ring. So the fun part is getting it in, getting that snap ring back in, but had luck once. So should I film it, Nick? You hear me swearing over here?
Beeps.
Say hi, Joe.
Hi, everyone.
That's my boss.
Good night, Jim.
All right, Joe. Thank you, sir.
Thank you both. Have a good evening.
I have a feeling I'm going to be editing a lot of this out, Nick. Because it's really tough to do. So how did I do it? I took this and made sure it was somewhat clean. Got all the crud off of it.
Is that lint free?
Huh? Yes. That's a lint-free rag. So for some reason when I put it in there and I actually got it go the whole way with the washer. Oh, that's right. Remember I had to kind of hold the washer in like that. And once I got the washer in the hole, where's that little screwdriver at? Got the washer part to go, seat itself. And then it kind of like, for some reason it created a vacuum. So the seal in the, Nick was like, just leave it like that, where's it gonna go? But this is where the tough part was, because I tried everything. I wonder if, I think your nice snap-on light would light this up for us. I'll turn that on. Okay, it's running again. So, how did I do this before? I pushed the washer in and I found the end of the snap ring. That doesn't light up good at all. Now I'm blocking my... No, it's still showing. And I used my pocket screwdriver and I pulled this out and I made sure that the washer was seated. There's this end of the snap ring. This is probably easier with the cover off, but I don't feel like pulling the valve cover. So I found the one end of the snap ring. Pushed it in and kind of squeezed the other one. Got the one to start. I'm filming. I got the top part in, but the washer's fighting me. So I'll give it a
You don't have the hammer on her.
little bit of... Oh, I'm using a snap-on tool screwdriver as a chisel. I'll be like, I don't know, man. I don't know why the tip broke, Matt. You know, Matt, that's abuse. I think it
Just go snap?
I think it just seeded. I think you can see where I'm at. Cue the phone after hours. I'll just wait till that quits. Anyway, I got it back probed again. I'm gonna feed power to it. What was that? Oh, that was that piece of that solenoid. I can live in this car forever. So I'm gonna jump it, and the last one I did, see that one's already working. But the last one I did, the exhaust one, when I had tightened it up, it didn't work. And there's just enough play in here, and when it was down, see it's not working, and if I pull it up, it's working. So that's how I confirmed that I was kind of centered in that electromagnet. So now I can confidently tighten this one back up. We'll check it one more time with the jumper wire, and then I'll hook up the scanner and we'll try to command it. So, click, click, got it tight, energize it, and it's working. So lucked out twice. Now we'll confirm it with the scanner and we'll be done. Alright, got it all together. I'm gonna do this quick because it does time me out. Go to the camshaft position actuator. We just fixed the intake. Do all that stuff. Raises the idle. Go to test, hit test. Start scrolling up, 5, 10, 15, 20. So you can see both intakes are working. 15, 10, 5, 0. Oops, didn't want to do that. It's still in the test. It's going to dump me out for the exhaust one. Okay, it left the test, but it might have timed me out. We'll see. Okay, functional test, CMP. Hit the exhaust now. It'll raise the idle back up. Hit test. Got 5, 10, 15, 20, and you can see it's matching what I want it to do. So that's awesome. Was able to fix this. I'm going to get a little bit more labor out of the guy, but no extra parts. So there we go. Can call it fixed. Thanks for watching. Alright, I did say I was going to check this signal again, so we'll do that real quick. I'm on both intakes again. That's the one we were on. So if I go to my functional test again, go to the intake. Okay, you can see there's my, when it's off signal, when it's not controlling anything. Put the RPMs up, take it up to say 10%. I'm at 20%. And I'll pause this. Get out of there. If I play it back, you can see my computer signal. And even on the, every once in a while I get an extra one now. That whole rhythmic thing I had going, I actually have more junk running through the side that actually works right here. So I don't know if this is an indication of maybe the other one's sticking, but you can see every once in a while I get an extra hit. But there's nothing like it was before. So kind of happy with that too. Like I said, it worked, so now it can go. Thanks for watching, guys.